All right, Rick, stand by.
Sure.
It is 12:50 on a Friday afternoon. We are checking in back in Iberville Parish where we're getting an update from our photographer who is on the scene there. WAFB photographer Rick Porche has had this live shot up for us. We checked in with him just about over an hour ago, and I believe he has an update for us. So as I switch over to this shot, we're going to get on the phone here with Rick. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Liz. We've got some good news out here is what it looks like. It's after a frantic morning trying to repair or plug an aqua dam that let loose. It looks like things are getting better here. The water's actually starting to recede a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you what's actually been going on all morning. For the last, hour and a half or so, parish workers and volunteers have been building this concrete wall with these barriers that came in during the noon show, I believe, and have backed the sandbags they've been laying with this concrete wall. Now, it hasn't made it all the way across the breach. You can see there's still water rushing through from the Atchafalaya into the neighborhood down here on JR Drive. But that breach, that hole is much, much smaller than when we first got here about 10:30, quarter to 11 this morning. You just missed it just before you guys came on live. Volunteers on the other side were building a sandbag wall, trying to meet in the middle here. You can see the water still rushing through pretty strong right there, but that breach, that hole is a lot smaller than it was this morning. And since the rain has stopped and they've actually done some work on this levee, the water's probably down a good 7 or 8 inches, maybe even more. Let me see if I can zoom out all the way and show you. I've been talking to a few neighbors around here. They said that the levee, the aqua dam let loose about 10 o'clock this morning, and from what I can tell, this is it. It blew it all the way across the street, and it's kind of come to rest in these neighbors' yards. I would say it's a good, 200, maybe 300 feet long. So you've got to imagine the water and the pressure that was coming through here. Someone told me earlier today these things can withstand about 25 pounds of pressure per square inch, I think it was. And for the water to force a break in that and to push it this far with all the water that was in it, you can imagine the force that was coming through here this morning. It's been a real effort all morning. Again, like I said, parish workers, volunteers, neighbors, everybody coming out to try to get this thing and save some of the homes here in JR Drive. And I think they may dodge a bullet on this one. Now, I know it's been bad for the folks in Bayou Pigeon. They've ordered some evacuations down south of here and Bayou Pigeon. I haven't been able to really keep up with what's going on down there, but I know there are folks evacuating out there. And so the sooner we can get this plugged up, some of this water can get out of here, and maybe these folks can kind of try to resume their lives.
Rick, I think that's the best way to put it, and it's so helpful to get that kind of vantage point from the ground. I mean, you said it, you've been out there since 10:30, but for you to say that water is going down, the concrete barrier is doing what it's supposed to, that is certainly a sight for sore eyes and good news for the people who live there.
It's really good news. The faces on the folks out here now are a lot more hopeful, a lot brighter than they were when I first showed up. There's a little bit of hope out here. From what I understand, there is another truckload of concrete barriers on the way. They're just waiting for those that truck to get here so they can finish up this wall. There's also an 18-wheeler full of sandbags waiting. So as soon as they can place those concrete barriers down, they'll throw the sandbags on that as well, and hopefully get this all taken care of before nightfall tonight.
Fingers crossed, Rick. Even to see the number of people, the volunteers out there, that's growing. I mean, that's the Louisiana way. You see all these people who are out there, I presume, who are there putting out the sandbags, now working to help put up that concrete wall, which is looking like it's helping immensely.
Watching them work on that concrete wall was pretty amazing, because you see DOTD workers dropping these in construction zones, and they just take them off the back of the truck and place them where they need to be. Well, with all that water rushing through, you can't just drop these barriers right where they want them. There were 20 and 30 men on each one pushing against the water, trying to put that barrier in place so that they can keep that wall tight, hold those sandbags in place, and stop this thing.
Wow. And I know you showed us that picture probably about a better part of an hour ago, maybe an hour and 30 minutes, around 11:30. You panned over and showed the neighbors evacuating that house. Have you seen a lot more people on that JR Drive packing up their things and leaving?
Not really. I think the neighbors here are kind of used to water. And, it's something they live with all the time. They've made their preparations in their homes. We've seen a few leave with, garbage bags of, I would imagine, clothes and pictures and things like that. But there hasn't been a whole scale evacuation of the neighborhood. I think probably because most of them are out here helping. Just to try to stop this thing. The number of volunteers is staggering. I've been in the business 30 something years, and I don't know that I've seen an effort this big happen so fast. Maybe in 2016 when for the flood in Baton Rouge, maybe that was probably a bigger effort, but that took a couple of days to mobilize. These guys mobilized within a matter of minutes and started doing what they could to try to stop this.
Incredible to see, incredible. And for you to be out there and see that in real time, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do, and it's working.
It's been something, and I really think the parish needs to be commended. They've gotten the supplies out here as quick as they could. They've got the barriers. They had sandbags here by 11 o'clock. They had truckloads of sandbags, and they started deploying those. It took a little bit longer to get those concrete barriers here, but now that they're up and doing their jobs, we just need one more truckload, and this might seal this thing.
I was just about to ask, from your vantage point, how much work does it look like they need, or how many more barriers you think?
I couldn't tell you how many barriers. They plugged 2/3 of the hole that was here probably when I showed up. And now they had done work before I got here. They were already sandbagged. They were already sandbagging parts of the highway and working on that as I showed up. But I would imagine they're 2/3 of the way through the gap in the levee that was here when I showed up. So they said they've got another 3 or 4 truckloads of these concrete barriers on standby, ready to deliver. And I think they're going to bring whatever they need. I couldn't tell you how many it's going to take, though.
It sounds like good news, certainly good news. Rick, thank you so much for the live picture and for that live update there in Iberville.
Sure thing.
You be safe out there.
Will do, Liz. Y'all take care.
Okay, you just heard from Rick Porche, our WAFB photographer, who's providing that live picture on the ground right now, where he says those concrete barriers have been brought in to block off Highway 75 there. And you can see, we're going to switch this over because the parish officials had asked for people to evacuate in that area. So if you live south of JR Drive in the Bayou Sorrel, Bayou Pigeon area, and even though you're getting this good news, maybe you still want to evacuate so you can kind of assess what your plan is from here. Well, you can go to the Plaquemine Civic Center. You see the evacuation route here. That's roughly where the aquadam failure is along Highway 75. And you can go to Highway 404. You're going to take that to White Castle, and then Highway 1 to Plaquemine. Again, that is where the Red Cross has opened an emergency evacuation shelter there at the Plaquemine Civic Center. Now, if you're in a place to do so, you can bring water, maybe some milk, some food, snacks to people who are evacuating there. We hear that they would certainly appreciate it. They're looking for some reinforcement. So that is the current evacuation route that you can take if you live along South JR Drive there in the Bayou Sorrel, Bayou Pigeon area where that water was flowing from the Intracoastal Waterway. In the meantime, we've got this story for you on the top of our news app. Aquadam fails, evacuations ordered in part of Iberville Parish. We're going to continue to update that story with more information we get from officials in that area, from our own crews who are on the ground, but we're going to have some live reports coming up for you at 9 News Alert at 4, and then at 5 and 6 tonight. We'll get the latest updates from there, but the latest coming from our Rick Porche on the scene is that the good news Well, those concrete barriers that have been brought in from DOTD in the state, from GOSEP, from the Louisiana National Guard, the things that are supposed to be in place, the things that are supposed to be working are working. So that is the latest update from Highway 75 there in Iberville Parish as crews, as volunteers work to close that gap, to make sure that they are filling that gap that was failed by that aqua dam that had reportedly burst earlier this morning. So in the meantime, we're going to leave you here. And make sure you join our team at 9 News Alert at 4 to find out the latest about all of the flooding in that area and, of course, how the severe weather this week has impacted South Louisiana. In the meantime, stay with us on the 9 News app.